Welcome to the Rocket Roof Show, where we equip fellow roofers to do more commercial business every first and third Thursday of the month. It's time to launch your business to the next level.
This is Project Command. Stand by at power transfer.
3, 2, 1. Blast off!
Welcome back once again to another episode of the Rocket Roof Show. I believe this is episode number 6, and we are here with Jeff McCurdy from San Diego Roofing. And so, today we're going to be talking about two different things. Recap on the IRE show that Jeff recently attended, and also the warranties is how they pertain to the coating industry and how they become such a great, important part of the roofing industry. So, without further ado, I want to introduce Jeff here. Hi, Jeff. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Andy. It's nice to finally meet you. It seems like we've been setting this up for a long time. I was so happy to hear from you. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. I started following you on LinkedIn, and I was just watching a lot of your posts. Very informative, very helpful. Just talking about warranty language. Frankly, I get lost in a lot of warranty language, and so we'll touch on that in a minute. But if you could just start off with a quick, bio, where you came from, what you're doing in the industry, and that'd be a good thing.
Sure. My running joke is that I've been trying to get out of roofing for about 20 years, and it's like Groundhog's Day. Every time I think I've made an exit, I'm back right in it. I wake up and go, "Oh no, I'm back in roofing again." But it was a family business, and years ago I had the opportunity to buy in to the family business. Anybody thinking about that, I would say proceed with caution. It did not work out well for me. Mm-hmm. And I've been a director with San Diego Roofing, actually helped launch their commercial division a few years back and grew that from literally nothing to about $4 million we're projecting this year.
Awesome. So you actually work directly with a roofing company?
I do. I have a side business where I train other roofers to help them improve their coatings processes. I love roof coatings, and I want people to feel comfortable getting out there and using them. And I think one of the things that stops people is, I just don't know how to do it. My crew isn't trained, things that way. So my side business is actually flying around the country, working with other crews and making sure that they're competent enough to do roof coatings. Awesome. So we'll touch on that in just a few minutes. Cool. You just got back from the IRE actually early this morning, right? I did. I've been up since 1 o'clock in the morning, my time.
Okay. Yeah. You're over on the West Coast, so I know we had to make that work. If you could give us a recap on, you were just telling me before we got on here that it was a very high-paced, bustling show that you weren't even able to get around to everybody you wanted to talk to. But just give us some highlights of what you've seen at the show.
Sure thing. So one thing I want to comment on, I haven't been to this show in a number of years, but the amount of interest this year, I really think roofing is finally starting to be recognized as a noble trade. Coming up through the years, I always felt like every other trade kind of looked down on us.
Oh, yeah.
Which was funny because we had the best view, right?
That's right. That's right.
But respect-wise, I never really felt like we got it, and it never made sense to me because I've always felt that we're just as much craftsmen as anybody else. In a lot of ways, more so. We have more dangers that we need to contend with. We have more safety issues to contend with. To see the amount of respect that manufacturers are now starting to put into our trade, and to see the interest in the seminars that the roofers themselves are starting to show. It's not that old, I've been doing it this way forever, I'm going to keep doing it this way forever mentality anymore. There's a yearning for knowledge, and I couldn't be more proud of our industry right now. Yeah,
that's awesome. It's funny, earlier last year, one of my guys were talking about a subcontractor we were working with, and they were new to the industry, and they were learning, and we were trying to train them the way we wanted things done. And the one guy says, a lot of roofers are just savages. And I thought, That's really an appropriate word because they're ambitious. They want to get stuff done. They're hungry, but
That's right.
A lot of them are just like savages. They don't read a lot. They don't educate themselves a lot. They don't know anything about self-development. And, but I think in the last couple of years, just with technology, I think a lot of guys are starting to realize, hey, if I don't want to get left behind, I've got to start doing self-development and learning technology and reading. And,
exactly.
So
well, and there's events that come around in any industry, major events that affect the whole country, or even things that just affect the industry itself, that kind of thin the herd, and you get rid of the people that don't care as much about the industry, that don't care as much about development. That I mean, right now, the old way of treating employees will absolutely force you out of business, because the younger generation of employees will not work for the type of boss that you and I probably came up with.
Yep. I was just talking about a friend the other day about this. He's on a road construction crew, and he said 20 years ago, his first day, he got put down in a ditch with a supervisor, and he said that supervisor cussed him up and down for about 2 minutes. What the blankety blank, you blankety blank, blank blank? Why did you come down here without a blankety blank shovel? And he's like, well, I didn't know. And he says, but if I were to talk to one of my guys now, he said they'd quit in a heartbeat. Like, they would walk off the job. You'd never see him the next day. So it's definitely changed. And for the last year or two, I've been hearing a lot of servant leadership type of leading, so leading with a servant, humble attitude. It's probably been like that for years, but people actually acknowledging that is the way to lead now.
Yeah, I think it kind of comes full circle. You start to just kind of make those adjustments without realizing it, because you realize, well, if I want a crew, this seems to be working. And then you start realizing, okay, this is actually a thing. And I really like, I've complained about millennials more than anybody else, but I'm actually starting to come around to it, because what I'm seeing is that they respond so well to empowerment. That if I teach these guys how to run the crew, I can be off that roof the rest of the day, and they just keep doing what I taught them because of that empowerment. It's not all bad news out there in that way.
Yeah.
And I know I'm off on a tangent here, but that the interest in learning about culture was something that I thought was really, really good. Charles Antis led a discussion on culture on the last day of the show, and there was so much interest that I couldn't get in.
Well, I mean, we didn't really get off on a rabbit trail because we're talking about the IRE. And so I think a lot of people think, well, that's only for owners. But
right.
When I was there last year, there was a lot of employees there, or employees that came with their boss, or so that just goes to show, like, they do take a couple of days off of work and check out what there is, whether it's technology or new equipment or new safety stuff. They want to, learn what's new out there. When you're from a small town like me, sometimes you get in your own little bubble and you don't realize that the world is progressing outside of your little bubble. And you're like, wow, we've had this out for 2 years. Well, I didn't know, So, but tell me, did you see a lot of people that were maybe non-owners there?
I did, and I'm really glad to see that too, because you as an owner, you've got so many facets that you're looking at daily that maybe you're not in tune with what the guys are seeing on the roof each and every day. Whereas you bring your installers out to a show like this, and they could say, oh man, I never knew this even existed, boss. Look at this. I'll bet you I could knock 2 hours off of every roof if you had a tool like this for me, Yep. And I've actually seen the discussion. Okay, tell me how this tool is going to help you. And I think that's a great discussion. I like to get my guys every tool that will actually help. Yep.
And that goes back to what you just said a minute ago, was empowerment. I mean, if employees like, wow, my boss is letting me come and check out this show, he's investing in me. He's actually listening to my opinion on tools and opening my eyes. That's empowering your employees to say, hey, I'm willing to listen to how you can help me build this business.
It is, and the number one thing that I'm hearing about retention is that it's not so much just. It used to be my generation was who's going to pay me the best. That's who I work for.
Yep.
This generation is not about that. They do want to be paid well, don't get me wrong, but they want somebody that's going to invest in them. They want the training, they want the tools, they want the pride. They want a lot of things that were not important to us. They want to wear it after the job, after hours. They want to wear that proudly and know, yeah, I'm working for this guy and he takes care of me or she takes care of me. And so the culture of a company is increasingly going to be super, super important.
Yeah, and I've noticed a lot of guys we work with, they really look at structure. Mm-hmm. Like if your company doesn't have structure, then that's not very. They don't see anything very clear on how are they going to get where they want to go. If they don't see a structure or process, they're like, well, I don't know how to get to foreman. I don't know how to get to $5 an hour more. And we've noticed that more that we work on our structure, the more people, want to stay and they can see themselves in the company. So great stuff. Let's, you have anything more to add on the IRE?
No, I just, if you're listening to this and you haven't made it out, make plans for next year. I think it's in Vegas next year. Okay. And it is just such a killer show. There's so much to learn, and don't rush it. Try to come for 2 days. I'm pretty good at walking these shows, and if I'd had the full 3 days to just walk this show and learn, I could have spent the entire time doing that. So there's so much there.
So how much has technology come into this show? 5 or 6 years ago, it was probably just a small segment of it, but it's grown and grown. The technology, the apps available and the technology. I mean, there's a lot of equipment now that are actually, ran from your smartphone now. And so True. Is that increasingly more this year?
I've never seen this at a roofing show before, but there were 2 rows essentially dedicated to technology. So that was your estimating softwares, that was your measuring softwares, your satellites, your near maps and roofer measuring and roof scopes and all of those type of things. And that's just two rows kind of designated. Those are also spread out around there. There were your drone companies. I mean, people, when you talk about roofing technology, drones have to be a part of that conversation because such a killer tool that I think we're still vastly underutilizing. So the technologies are just absolutely amazing. And if you're staying apprised with them, yes, it's kind of a big sea where it's tough to filter out the ones that are actually going to have an impact on my company versus the ones that may be noise. But if you get through it, if you just adopt 1 or 2 new technologies this year, you may find yourself getting rid of a lot of paper, a lot of time wasted. There's apps where you can track your employees a lot better. And just everything. The workflow is becoming really, really easy to do. I shouldn't say easy. It's becoming easier to track a proper workflow. Yep. And there's even job planning softwares now. So when you start off on this giant roof and it's, oh my God, I don't know what to do first. They've got software that actually can help you figure that out.
For sure. Awesome. So let's dive into coatings a little bit. I know you, I regard you as an expert in that field. So let's talk about where coatings were 20 years ago, 10 years ago, and where they've come to today. Because I think just in the last couple of years, the industry has really started to recognize coatings as a legitimate system. And I think we can tell that by some of the major manufacturers buying up these private labels. And, if they're willing to stake their name on it, they're definitely a legitimate system. But there's also systems that, they sell at the big box stores. And so if you could kind of share with me what your take is on, the legitimacy of coating systems, where they've been, and what do you think they're going forward?
So the first thing that I always tell people is there's this argument. The 2 predominant ones in roof coatings are you a silicone guy or are you an acrylic guy?
Mm-hmm.
And my answer to that has always been, I'm whichever one's right for this application.
Yep.
And so I don't believe that there is one better overall. You know, silicone will last forever as long as nothing ever touches it, but it doesn't have that impact strength that the acrylics do. And those are only a couple of examples. I use at San Diego Roofing, we use a completely different an ecoplastic polymer system. So it has come a long way, though. You know, the idea of coating roofs really, I don't even think it ever would have caught any traction if not for everybody getting more interested in R values. So the only way you were going to get those big R values up and down the California, I think really started that. Probably Phoenix had a lot to do with it as well, was the spray foam. Well, you can't leave that exposed spray foam, so that you had to kind of introduce a roof coatings industry there. And I may be inaccurate a little bit on the exact history, but
well, Texas A&M had a really in-depth study on spray foam and coatings and how legitimate they were. I don't know, maybe a decade ago. You recall that study? And I think a lot of people took notice of that.
I think that's great. I don't recall the study, but it does make sense to me. And I mean, I really think if we didn't have spray foam, you wouldn't see legitimacy to coatings in other applications now.
Right.
But that was kind of what got the coatings industry in the door. Then you had a bunch of crap manufacturers that just put out products. And to be fair, there was a lot of us doing crap work too. And that's always, whenever there's that new industry emerging, right? You've got your good players raising it and saying, look at how great this is. And then you've got your crap players, and it only takes one of them to counteract the efforts of 10 people doing it well. And make everybody think, oh, this is garbage. So there was a lot of times. So I've been a silicone and acrylic roof applicator, and real roofers would really just you know, whatever. You don't even belong in this club. You're not a roofer. You're a painter. And
didn't they say the same thing about membranes in the 80s when they were first coming out?
I've heard those stories. I was not there yet.
Yep. I mean, I was just starting out too, but I remember, that TPO is junk and the PVC is junk, and they were still playing around with the formulas, right? And so there were some that were failing in the first 4, 5, 6 years. But there were still roofers that they were trying it. There was a new system coming out. It was more efficient of an application, and it was getting away from the old built up, which a lot of guys still believe in, those hot mop and built up systems. But the single plies are coming along, and they were more labor, easily to install labor wise and everything. And so, but there was a lot of scrutiny at the beginning there where the older guys didn't believe in that product, but now they're the mainstay, right?
Well, the pioneers will always be the butt of jokes until everybody catches up, right? And if you're going to be a pioneering roofer, you're going to have to stand behind some of your work and say, look, if this I believe in this now. If it doesn't work, I'm going to come back. I'm going to make it right for you. But somebody has to be the pioneer, or the industry just stays stagnant. So one of the things that's just nails on the chalkboard to me is when people say, well, I've always done it this way. Well, then how boring it must be for you going to work every day if you're just going to do it the way you've always done it. Let's learn something. Let's try something. Let's push the boundaries. I mean, it was literally unheard of however many years ago to offer a flat roof warranty beyond a couple of years. And then it became a few years, and then 10 years. And it was like, wow, how can you warrant a flat roof for 10 years? That's crazy. Now we're seeing 20, 30, sometimes even 40-year warranties on flat roofs. And I just think that's great, but we didn't get there by doing things the way that they have always been done. We got there by trying new products and sometimes stumbling with them.
Yep. So without naming manufacturers, can you tell me some things to look for when you're looking for a good coating to use, or maybe as far as warranties or viscosity or usability? Talk to me about, if a new guy's looking to get into coating, what should he be keeping his eyes open for?
I think all of the things you named are good things, and I do want to touch a bit more on warranty. The bigger piece of advice, though, because you mentioned a new guy, I have never put a coating on a roof without running it through extensive testing of my own first. Manufacturers will tell you anything that they want, and they can back it up in labs and everything that way. That's great. But that a laboratory doesn't tell me a darn thing about how it's going to perform on a roof in my region. So I do all of my own testing, and I encourage anybody else that's going to consider using a new product, put it to the test. Put it to the test. Use adhesion testing. Use whatever you see in your market. Test it to that standard before you put your name on putting it on a roof. And there's a couple of advantages to doing that. A, you're not going in there blind and just hoping that manufacturer didn't lie to you this time. B, it makes for much easier selling. When you know the product that well, going in and you're working on closing the deal. And, I only do commercial projects. These things can drag on 18 months sometimes, and you can blow it with one bad answer. So knowing the product really well is super important, and testing it is a really good way to give yourself that intimate knowledge. So I think that that's my biggest advice on product selection. Then you get into the warranties. There is having the manufacturer's backing is absolutely a great thing to have, but don't over rely on that. If you read any manufacturer's warranty, you've got so many outs that all put that warranty back on you and your craftsmanship. So your client's first line of defense is you knowing what the heck you're doing and doing it properly.
So just for the benefit of our listeners, what would be some of those outs or disclaimers that a manufacturer might use that would be shocking to somebody?
So for the consumer, if they end up with a roof leak, they're going to automatically assume that manufacturer's warranty is going to protect them, right? But if the contractor who applied that product didn't do proper preparation and applied the product over a dirty roof, and that's why it's not adhering, and you're getting these the peel off, and that's where your leak's coming from, the manufacturer is going to wash their hands of that and say, you need to talk to this contractor, because our warranty and every single manufacturer's warranty stipulates when applied properly. So, I think some contractors, and I see it a lot, and I don't even think some of these guys have manufacturers backing, to be honest with you, but they just want to say, okay, here's your warranty from the manufacturer. My work here is done. But that's simply not the case. You need to actually do a good job. I don't care whose system you're applying and how good that warranty is. The first thing starts with a job well done.
So let's take a break right here real quick. I'm going to just take a couple second break and hear a word from our sponsors.
Did you know Andy Neer has been using Top Roof Marketing for the commercial roofing division of his business for more than 3 years? If you're not happy with the results you're getting or haven't looked into all the ways out there to grow your commercial business, take a look at toproofmarketing.com. They can show you solid data to back up the proven strategies they use to get their clients more commercial business year after year.
Okay, we're back here again with Jeff McCurdy from San Diego Roofing, talking about roof coatings and how they're really taking hold in the roofing marketplace now. And we were just talking about warranties, and you're talking about testing in your individual market, Jeff. Just kind of like give maybe somebody new that says, hey, I've got some of this product, I want to test it. What would some of them tests be? Like maybe like an impact test or stretchability test?
Absolutely. If you're in a market that sees a lot of hot and cool cycles, absolutely things like elongation are going to be important to you. So test that and test it. what I see a lot of is people take a sample and pull it once and go, oh, look at that elongation. I'm talking about pulling that a few hundred times and seeing if it still has that elongation, or if it begins to sag, or if after 3 times stretching, it just sags.
Okay.
Keep in mind, you may not need as much elongation if you've got higher tensile strength, and the product can actually hold things together over a large period of time. The big one to me is adhesion. I can't tell you how many times I've seen people sell a project and they haven't done an adhesion test on the substrate, and you just don't know until you've run that adhesion.
I was guilty of that for many years. I didn't know any better. I was working with a manufacturer, I didn't have training. I was kind of the wild west. I just doing what I thought I needed to do, and I didn't know I needed to do an adhesion test. And so, yeah, that's a good thing.
I learned it the hard way too. And, one example out here is we've got a lot of buildings near our airport. I know some places have rural airports. Ours is right in the city. So we do a lot of work right around the airport. Anywhere on the landing side, we've never seen any adhesion issues, anything that way. But on the takeoff side of the airport, we actually find that those deposits of half-spent jet fuel create an issue where a product may not bond properly. So the amount of pressure washing, or in this case, what we do is hydrovacking near the airport, which not something we have to do anywhere else in the county, just in that one zone. But you need to know that. So now that may not be a step that you do in evaluating. Yes, I want to proceed with checking this product, but it's something important to do before you start that job, because it is way better to find out, hey, this is not the right product for this substrate while you're in the bidding process, than when you're sitting there having to go, here's that check back. Darn.
Yeah. And that's another good point you have too, is to obvious, if there, it's probably obvious, but when you're talking to a commercial building owner, asking them what's the use of this facility? What are you using it for? I met with one today that it's an old building, but they're repurposing it. Used to be a pallet manufacturer. Now they're switching it to like an indoor paintball facility. But you got to ask that question. What are you going to be using this for? Because your coating or other roof system may not jive with what you're putting on, or you might not know their real use.
And to that point, your warranty may not cover the real use.
Yep.
So we've seen it a lot of times where you've got the steps up to the roof, but the property manager says, no, none of the tenants ever come up here. No, it's fine. And then you get a leak in a new silicone roof and go up and check, and there's just nothing but cigarette butts up there. And it turns out they've turned the roof into the employee break room.
Yep.
Well, I'm not even going to go to my manufacturer and say, hey, I need to file a warranty claim on this, because I know the answer there. The answer is our warranty does not include this. This is not to be a walking high traffic surface. This is a roof. If you want a high traffic surface, we need to do that system. And those warranties get to be significantly shorter. I think the longest warranty I've ever seen for a high traffic on a roof deck is going to be about 3 years versus 40 or 50. So
how do they define high traffic?
That, I think, is what was the joke when they were having the Supreme Court things? I don't know pornography, but I'll tell you when I see it. I think it's kind of defined that way. I mean, I define it as if there's anybody going to be on that roof other than my company doing twice annual maintenance, or the HVAC guys, and I want those guys signing a log. Everybody up, everybody down. I want a log, and part of my roof inspection is looking through that log and making sure that it looks like we're catching everybody. Because if I've seen way too many times where somebody up there working on mechanical equipment or something that way will spill a bunch of screws and not pick them up, especially on a silicone project. Those screws can create a real issue if anybody steps on them. And again, that's another issue where I'm not going to go back to the manufacturer and say, hey, I need support here. This is one where I'm going to fix it and bill the customer because this was not included in either of my warranty or the manufacturer's warranty.
Yep.
So I think that it does get back to the original point of what's in those warranties. And really what's in those warranties is if this roof, once it's completed, is left alone with the exception of the most basic of routine, the expected people up there, and it leaks, the manufacturer will do what it takes to correct the leak.
Yep.
Most of the warranties are not full. They're not going to redo the project or anything that way. It's usually, usually a water tightness warranty when we're in the coatings industry.
Yep.
So people say, well, that seems different than if I'm doing single ply, or that seems different than when I'm doing residential shingles. And I think it's nuanced, but there's a very clear reason for that. When you're buying shingles, you are buying a product that is manufactured.
Yep.
And it's up to you to follow a pattern to install that product. When you're installing single ply, you're doing actually a little bit of the manufacturing because you're welding that together. So the manufacturer doesn't have as much control there as they would with the shingle. Then when you get into coatings, you're really talking about taking a product that is halfway manufactured. We've gotten it to you in liquid form. Now you do the rest.
Yep.
So the manufacturer's ability to control the rest of the way that their product is manufactured is eliminated. So you do see a drawback in warranties. And that's why I think it's so important it's important for the clients to select good coatings applicators, companies that actually know their stuff. And it's very important for those companies to do the proper training. I can tell you there's at least 20 guys in my county that will spray silicone on your roof for $2.25 a square foot. And when I get hit with, well, these guys said that they'll do my roof for this price, I tell them I wouldn't wash your roof for that price. So you should consider that. If I won't even wash your roof for that price, what are you actually getting here? And I don't know any manufacturer that's going to actually warrant that application. But these guys, they have legit looking warranty forms and everything that way. The problem is they're long gone and under a different business name, different license number by the time it's time for you to collect on it. And I hate when I see this happen to my clients. Usually, let's just say I was going to charge $100,000 and these guys come in at $50,000. When I get that job again 2 years later, I end up having to tack on another $30,000 just to clean up the mess that's been left behind so that I can do what I was originally going to do for $30,000 less.
Right. Exactly. Okay. So I guess one of the last questions would be, you get a lot of guys that just think this is a Band-Aid. Okay. And maybe there are some big box stores that they can sell a bucket, and it essentially is a Band-Aid. I mean, it's made for a temporary solution. But I think we kind of established that these are legitimate systems with real warranties, so long as you follow the application that's set forth by the manufacturer. And it's different from manufacturer to manufacturer. They each have their own recipe, whether it's millage thickness or surface preparation or primer, fabric or no fabric. They all have their certain way. And so what do you think a guy should look at when he's trying to decide, I'm going to put my company's name with this particular product? Because, you're going to have a salesman come and tell him, hey, this will survive under ponding water. It'll be X amount of reflective. It's super easy to put on. But I know a lot of roofers have a hard time wading through all of that knowledge. What specific, maybe 2 or 3 key takeaways can a guy take away? For me, Well, maybe I'll give you my point, what I was looking for
Sure.
when you're done. But go ahead and give us 2 or 3 action items.
So I get asked a lot, what's the best roofing system? And I say, or the best roof coating. I say, I can't tell you that. I can tell you what some of the worst ones are, and you can just walk down the aisles of any box store and find those.
Mm-hmm.
And to the point of, oh, well, roof coatings are just a Band-Aid. Well, they are if they're treated that way.
Mm-hmm.
They can be just a Band-Aid. They can be legitimate long-term solutions. What I look for is training, application support, and I'm looking for a company that actually seems to have some application knowledge. It's nice when the coatings manufacturer has roofers that are working with the company and helping you get through some of these difficult applications.
Mm-hmm.
I've got roofing isn't like any of the other trade, at least by the time we get to it, because we're not doing new construction. We're helping save people hundreds of thousands of dollars from tearing off. So we get up there and we see all kinds of unique stuff, and we've got to deal with sometimes the foam company that came in before us was horrible at laying down foam, and you've just got these rolling hills and
Mm-hmm.
blisters everywhere and things that way. Well, that wasn't in many of the handbooks that I got from any of the manufacturers. So support is a big thing. Can I call the manufacturer? Can I send them a picture? Can I text with them? Are they that available to me to where I can text them a picture and say, I don't know what the heck this is. What do I do here?
Yep.
So I think support really is the big thing. Doing your testing, making sure that you're picking a product that you feel confident is going to do the job. I mean, if the product is too complicated for you, there are some really killer systems out there that have too many steps. And if your crew isn't up to that task, maybe it's not the right system for you. Yeah. And I think this industry is so vast. There's so much negative selling between coatings and everything that way. And I really don't think there's a need for any of it. There is work out there for all of us. Mm-hmm. We need to get the spray and go guys out of our industry, mm-hmm. and start promoting the guys that actually do the job properly. But there are at least a dozen good coatings manufacturers and at least a dozen horrible ones.
Yep.
But look for the ones that are going to support you, they're going to train you, that have your back, and that have seen your situation before.
Yep. And I want to make sure that this doesn't go without saying, because we talked about good surface preparation, but mm-hmm. there's also times when you shouldn't coat when you have maybe rotted deck or saturated insulation board or something going on underneath. So I just want to make sure if anybody's listening, thinking about getting into coatings, even though you might have really awesome surface or surface preparation, not every roof's a good candidate, because there might be something going on underneath too. So that's where we got to make sure that we qualify these roofs. They're not the answer to every problem. So I just wanted to make sure I put that out there.
Can I tell you a quick horror story on that note?
Please, yeah.
Hated doing this. It was a 70,000 square foot warehouse. I mean, this thing maybe had 2 penetrations per 10,000 square feet. I mean, just one of those dream jobs for us in the coatings world, because we did so little to do.
Yep.
Started walking the roof, and I would say probably close to 30-40% of the areas were really, really soft. Due to the ceiling on the other side, I couldn't really get a good look at the rafters. Pulled a couple of core samples. We could do a whole episode on core sampling, but just say, do your core samples.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Pulled a couple of core samples and found out there was really, really significant rot. And I said, we're going to have to pass on this. We don't do full tear off and replacement on projects of this size. And I gave him a referral to a guy that would. Well, one of my guys found out, and he was mad. He said, we should have done it. No way should we pass on a job that big. These guys were practically begging us to coat roof. And I said, yeah, sometimes they do beg us, but they're begging us for the wrong thing. We got to give them the right thing. So this guy jumped ship, stole the lead, went to a different company, sold the job, said, I was full of it, blah, blah, blah. 3 years later, that roof collapsed. Luckily, it didn't hurt anybody, but the lawsuit ended that company, and all because they got greedy on one job. So, if it's not a candidate, pass on it. There are absolutely times where there is no choice but to tear off and start over.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Well, I think that's all the questions I have for you. But if there's anything that you'd like to add at the back end for maybe somebody that still doesn't believe that coatings are legitimate or going anywhere, or if there's any news that you've heard this year in the coating industry.
What I'm seeing is that people are actually starting to put a lot of research money into improving. So for the last few years, I would say there really wasn't one silicone that was better than another. There wasn't really a lot of better acrylics or anything that way. What we're actually seeing now, though, is things are coming out of research and development. Companies are changing the specs. I mean, there's things that we used to know, okay, the way of installing this was A, B, C, D. And manufacturers are now cutting out B and C. So we're just going straight from A to D. I'm not 100% sure that this is going to be a net win for the industry. Mm-hmm. I think some of it may be positioning due to contractors complaining about the price of coatings. And so I would caution everybody, just because a coating is saying it's primerless, check it out. Make sure that it actually adheres to your substrate before you go primerless on it. Yep. I've done some testing on some coatings that shall remain nameless. Yep. That say they're primerless over TPO or they're primerless over mineral cap. And I can absolutely tell you, I would not put my reputation on using them primerless. Yep. So, and I know there's guys that'll say, well, it meets the manufacturer's spec. Well, the manufacturer isn't the one that's really on the hook here. It's your license. Don't let them take that away from you. So,
and some of these manufacturers are warranting their systems, or they're advertising a warranty longer than they've been around. Right? Like they may have been around for 5-10 years, and they're proclaiming a 20-year warranty. So that should have some kind of red flag.
Sure. Now there is accelerated testing. So if they've gone through accelerated testing, aging and things that way, then maybe you can extrapolate and say, okay, look, I think it really depends on what's the data point that they're using to back up their warranty. And, read the fine print on these warranties too. I mean, there's an arms race in warranties to have the longest materials warranty. If you read any materials warranty, though, all it says is we're guaranteeing you that it was manufactured to our spec on the day you bought it. Yep. So, and these things go up to 75 years now. But my question is, why not make it 10,000 years? Because there's no teeth to this warranty anyway. So I'll give you a 1 billion year warranty on it. Who cares? It doesn't matter.
Yeah. Okay. Now, here's a question I wanted to ask earlier and I forgot, but let's say you did want to do a certain coating. In many places, you could probably get a hold of a rep or get a hold of another contractor and say, hey, you want to see a 20-year-old such and such a roof? Here's an address. And you could probably go look at one in person. Is that correct? I mean, have you ever done that, gone and look at a certain brand? Okay.
Absolutely. Sometimes I find it's sometimes tough to coordinate that with the customer. 20 years later, it may not be the same tenant. And they're like, I don't know what you're doing here. Or, I don't know. It's weird. But absolutely, the manufacturers do have a lot of roofs, or they should have. Mm-hmm. And also testimonials are a good way to go too. Ask them, hey, can I talk to a property manager you've done a roof with? Let me talk to a contractor that's been making money with your product for a while. Because, if none of your contractors are making any money, something's wrong in that equation, because none of us are here to volunteer our labor only, right?
Right. So to wrap this up, I probably should ask at the beginning, you don't only do coatings. You're familiar with single plies and stuff like that too, right? So But we just wanted to bring you on the show today because of your knowledge of coatings. And I do know last year you said you spent quite a bit of time, 3 or 4 weeks, actually going through every warranty, a couple dozen of them? So
At
that
least
you could,
a couple dozen, yeah.
I struggle getting through one warranty, so kudos to you for doing that. So, but yeah, thank you for being on the show with us today. I'm glad I connected with you on LinkedIn, and I'd love to have maybe another have you on the show again and again in the future. Maybe talking about core samples like you did earlier.
Nice.
I know that's something that a lot of guys take for granted that everybody does or they know how to do it, but they're a whole process on their own that's really where you get all your information. So maybe we'll do an episode in the future on that. So
I had so much fun, Andy. Talking with you is like talking to an old pal. I would come back anytime. Thank you for all the great content on LinkedIn. Keep up the good work, man. I have so much respect for you. Thanks for starting the show. It's been a real pleasure. Well,
thank you, Jeff. I appreciate that. And hope you stay sunny and warm over there in California. So
we do a good job of that.
Yep. Because it's about 28 degrees here today in Michigan, but the groundhog said that spring's coming early, so we'll see how that goes.
Stay warm out there, man.
Yep. Okay. Well, thank you, and see you around.
You've been listening to the Rocket Roof Show podcast. Be sure to subscribe through your favorite podcasting platforms such as iTunes or Google Play to get the latest episodes as they are launched. For more, please follow us on social media or visit our website at rocketroofshow.com. We look forward to joining you here again soon at the next launch.